Ambassador Maya Rodriguez walked with measured steps through the crystalline halls of the Galactic Council chambers on Centauri Prime. The clicking of her heels against the polished floors echoed sharply, causing several Xanax diplomats to flutter their eye stalks in her direction before quickly looking away. She allowed herself a small, tight smile. The Council feared her. Not because of any inherent violence or aggression. Humanity had, after all, been the picture of cordial cooperation since first contact. No, they feared what she represented. They feared change. She strode into the central chamber and took her place at the human delegation's booth. High Counselor Zack, a towering Vaxian with shimmering purple skin, was already droning on about some new regulation or another. Maya half listened, her mind wandering to the datapad in her hand and the message it contained. And so, the Council has determined, Zack was saying, his harmonic voice grating on her ears, that human expansion into the Orion Spur must be immediately halted. Maya's head snapped up. She could feel the eyes of every delegation on her, waiting for her response. She stood, straightening her suit jacket. Honorable Council, she began, her voice ringing clear across the sudden silence of the chamber. I must warn you that this decision will have consequences. A susurrus of shocked murmurs rippled through the room. A warning from a human. It was unheard of. Some of the council members even had the audacity to chuckle, as if the very notion of a human standing up to them was amusing. High Counselor Zack's eye stalks quivered with barely contained mirth. Ambassador Rodriguez, he said, condescension dripping from every syllable. Surely you understand that this is for the greater good of galactic stability. Your species' rapid expansion is making other members uncomfortable. Maya lifted a single, perfectly manicured eyebrow. I see. And when the Zenth Collective annexed an entire sector last cycle, was that not cause for discomfort? When the Vurian Empire strip-mined half a dozen systems, did that not threaten galactic stability? Zack's mouth opened and closed soundlessly for a moment, his skin flushing an even deeper purple. That is entirely different, he managed finally. Those are established, responsible civilizations. You humans are still new to the galactic stage. You cannot expect dash. No. Maya cut him off with a single, sharp syllable. No more double standards. No more hypocrisy. Humanity has played by your rules. We have submitted to every restriction, every condescension, every patronizing slight. And we have smiled through it all. But no more. She tapped a command on her datapad, and a holographic projection sprang to life above the central podium. It showed Earth, blue and serene against the blackness of space. Then, one by one, other planets blinked into existence around it. A dozen, then 100, then 1,000. A shocked gasp ran through the chamber. What is the meaning of this? Zack demanded, his voice shrill. Maya smiled, and for the first time, it wasn't a pleasant expression. This, High Counselor, is the human sphere of influence. Every planet you see here is under our protection. We have been busy, you see, while you were busy underestimating us. Building, preparing, growing. And now, we are ready to take our rightful place in this galaxy. You cannot do this. Zack spluttered. The Council will never recognize your claim to these worlds. Oh, I rather think you will, Maya said softly. Because if you don't, well, I did warn you there would be consequences. She tapped another command, and the projection changed. Now it showed a fleet of starships, sleek and silver, hanging in perfect formation above Earth. More ships than any one species had ever amassed in the history of the Council. This is just a portion of our fleet, Maya said, almost conversationally. Remarkably advanced, isn't it? Amazing what one can accomplish when one isn't constrained by arbitrary regulations. Oh, and I should mention, each and every one of those ships is equipped with a jump drive. She paused, letting the implications sink in. Jump drives. The Council had declared the technology too dangerous, too destabilizing for any one species to possess. And yet, here were the humans, casually revealing that they had not only developed the technology, but had equipped their entire fleet with it. So, Maya said, turning back to face Zack. I believe you have a decision to make, High Counselor. Recognition, or consequences. The choice is yours. But I would choose quickly. Human patience, as you may have noticed, has its limits. She sat back down, crossing her legs and steepling her fingers in front of her. And she smiled that smile again, the one that was more warning than welcome. In that moment, the course of galactic history shifted. The Council, in all their vaunted wisdom and superiority, had played a game of brinksmanship with the wrong species. They had poked the Deathworlders one too many times. And now, the Deathworlders were poking back. News of the standoff in the Council chamber spread like wildfire through the galactic community. Within hours, every news feed, every infonet, every subspace channel was buzzing with the same story: the humans had stood up to the Council, and the Council had blinked. In the depths of the human compound on Centauri Prime, Maya Rodriguez sat in her private quarters, nursing a cup of synthetic coffee. Her datapad pinged with an incoming message, and she smiled when she saw the sender's ID. Maya, the holographic figure of Admiral Thorne said as it materialized above the pad. I hear you caused quite the stir in the Council today. Maya shrugged. I only did what needed to be done. They were never going to take us seriously until we forced their hand. Thorne nodded. As the head of humanity's covert expansion program, he understood better than most the necessity of what Maya had done. For decades, they had worked in secret, establishing colonies, building ships, researching technologies the Council had deemed forbidden. All the while maintaining the facade of the perfect, submissive client species. It had been a delicate balancing act, one that required constant vigilance and no small amount of subterfuge. But it had been necessary. The Council, for all their talk of galactic unity and cooperation, had never truly seen humanity as an equal. They had sought to constrain them, to keep them weak and dependent. But they had underestimated human ingenuity, human determination. And, perhaps most of all, human patience. So what's our next move? Maya asked, leaning back in her chair. For now, we consolidate our position, Thorne said. The Council will try to challenge our claims, to test our resolve. We need to be firm, but not aggressive. We don't want to give them any excuse to paint us as the villains here. Maya nodded. It was a fine line to walk. Push too hard, and they risked turning the rest of the galaxy against them. But give an inch, and the Council would take a light year. What about the Zenth and the Varians? She asked. They won't be happy about us encroaching on their territory. Thorne's hologram smiled. Let me worry about the Zenth and the Varians. I have a feeling they're about to have some internal issues to deal with. Maya raised an eyebrow, but didn't press for details. Thorne's methods were best left unexamined at times. There is one more thing, Thorne said, his expression turning serious. We've had a development on the Rakwood front. I'm sending you the files now. Maya's datapad pinged again, and she scanned the information quickly. Her eyebrows climbed higher with every passing second. Is this verified? She asked finally, looking up at Thorne. Fully, he confirmed. The Rakwood have been experimenting with AI technology. And not just any AI. They're trying to create a sentient, self-aware AI. Maya let out a low whistle. The implications were staggering. The Council had long ago banned any research into artificial sentience, deeming it too unpredictable, too dangerous. But if the Rakwood had actually succeeded, it would change everything. The balance of power in the galaxy would shift overnight. Do we have any assets in place? Maya asked. We do, Thorne said. And they're ready to move on your command. But Maya, if we do this, there's no going back. It will be seen as an act of war. Maya was silent for a long moment, weighing the options in her head. On one hand, a war with the Raquid was the last thing humanity needed right now, with tensions with the Council already running high. But on the other hand, if they allowed the Raquid to perfect this technology unchallenged, the consequences could be catastrophic. In the end, there was only one choice she could make. The choice she had been trained to make since the day she joined the service. The choice to protect humanity, no matter the cost. Do it, she said finally. Shut it down, hard and fast. And Thorn? Make sure there's nothing left for them to salvage. Thorn nodded grimly. Understood. Thorn out. As his hologram winked out of existence, Maya let out a long, slow breath. She had just given the order to destroy what could be the most significant technological development in the history of the galaxy. But she knew, with a bone-deep certainty, that it had been the right call. The Raquid could not be allowed to control such power. No one could. It was too great a temptation, too great a risk. She just hoped the price of that decision wouldn't be more than humanity was willing to pay. The fallout from the Raquid incident was as swift as it was severe. Within a galactic standard day of the human strike on the Raquid AI research facility, the Council had convened an emergency session. Maya Rodriguez once again found herself standing before the assembled delegations, her stance defiant, her expression unyielding. The humans have gone too far this time, the Raquid ambassador shouted, his face a mottled red with rage. They have attacked a sovereign research installation without provocation or justification. This is an act of war. Murmurs of agreement sounded from around the chamber. Maya let them wash over her, her gaze never wavering from the High Counselor's podium. Ambassador Rodriguez, Zack said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. What do you have to say for yourself and your species? Maya stepped forward, her head held high. Only this, High Counselor. The Raquid were developing illegal AI technology that posed a threat to every sentient being in the galaxy. We acted to eliminate that threat. Nothing more, nothing less. You had no right, the Raquid ambassador snarled. No authority. No. Maya asked, her voice suddenly cold. And what authority did the Raquid have to pursue this research in the first place? What right did they have to endanger us all for the sake of their own advancement? She turned, addressing the chamber at large. For too long, this council has turned a blind eye to the transgressions of its favored members, while holding others to an impossible standard. No more. Humanity will no longer stand idly by while the galaxy burns around us. We will take action to protect ourselves, and to protect others, whether the Council approves or not. This is outrageous. Zack spluttered. You dare to dictate terms to this Council? You, a mere Deathworlder upstart? Maya's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. Careful, High Counselor. That mere Deathworlder upstart commands the most powerful fleet in the known universe. A fleet that could be at your doorstep in a matter of hours, should we deem it necessary. A shocked silence fell over the chamber. Never before had a species dared to openly threaten the Council in its own halls. This body has a choice to make, Maya continued, her voice ringing clear. It can continue to cling to the old ways, to the status quo that has allowed corruption and injustice to fester unchecked. Or it can adapt, evolve, and forge a new path forward. A path of true equality, true cooperation. Humanity stands ready to walk that path. But we will not be led down it in chains. We will walk it as equals, or not at all. With that, she turned on her heel and strode from the chamber, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. In the days and weeks that followed, the galaxy held its collective breath, waiting to see how the Council would respond to this unprecedented challenge to its authority. Some expected swift and brutal retaliation. Others anticipated a more diplomatic approach, an attempt to bring the humans back into the fold through negotiation and compromise. What no one expected was what actually happened. Slowly, quietly at first, then with growing momentum, other species began to rally to humanity's cause. The Krellians, long resentful of the Council's trade restrictions, were the first to openly declare their support. They were quickly followed by the Mazu, the Ort, and a dozen other minor species who had long chafed under the Council's rule. Within a month, a full third of the galactic community had aligned itself with the human position. Within 2, it was more than half. The Council, faced with an unprecedented crisis of legitimacy, did the only thing it could. It adapted. High Counselor Zach announced a sweeping series of reforms, aimed at addressing the inequalities and injustices that humanity had so forcefully brought to light. Restrictions were lifted, concessions were made, and a new era of genuine galactic cooperation seemed poised to begin. But even as the council chambers rang with applause and self-congratulation, Maya Rodriguez couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had changed, fundamentally and irrevocably. The old order had been swept away, and something new was rising to take its place. Something with humanity at its center. She smiled to herself as she watched the proceedings, a small, secret smile that would have sent chills down the spines of the assembled dignitaries had they seen it. They had no idea what they had unleashed. No idea of the fire they had ignited in the hearts and minds of the Deathworlders. But they would learn. Oh yes, they would learn. And the galaxy would never be the same. Deep in the heart of human space, on a small, unassuming moon orbiting a gas giant, a meeting was taking place. A meeting that would, in time, come to be seen as a turning point in galactic history. Around a circular table sat some of the most influential figures in human society. Admirals, ambassadors, CEOs, and scientists, all gathered to discuss the future of their species in the wake of the paradigm-shifting events of the past year. At the head of the table sat Maya Rodriguez, her expression pensive as she listened to the animated discussions taking place around her. The economic opportunities are staggering, the CEO of a major mining consortium was saying. With the Council's restrictions lifted, we have access to resource-rich systems that were previously off-limits. Our profits could increase tenfold in the next decade alone. And what of the indigenous populations of those systems? A silver-haired admiral asked pointedly. Are we to become just another imperial power, exploiting and displacing those weaker than ourselves? That's a fair point, Maya interjected, drawing all eyes to her. We have a responsibility now, a duty of stewardship. The galaxy is watching us, looking to us for leadership. We cannot afford to squander that trust for the sake of short-term gain. Nods of agreement circled the table, some more reluctant than others. But we also cannot afford to rest on our laurels, Maya continued. The Council may have acquiesced to our demands for now, but make no mistake, they will be looking for any opportunity to reassert their control. We must be proactive, not reactive. We must continue to innovate, to expand, to build alliances and partnerships with those who share our vision. And what exactly is that vision, Ambassador? A sharp-eyed scientist asked. Galactic domination. A human hegemony that spans the stars. Maya shook her head. No. Our vision is simpler than that, and yet infinitely more profound. It is a vision of a galaxy where every species, every individual, has the opportunity to reach their full potential. Where the strong do not prey upon the weak, but rather lift them up. Where cooperation and understanding reign supreme over conflict and mistrust. She paused, letting her words sink in. We have a chance now, a chance to build something new. Something better. And it starts here, with us. With the choices we make, the paths we choose to follow. Around the table, heads nodded, spines straightened, eyes gleamed with newfound purpose. So let us choose wisely, Maya said, her voice ringing with conviction. Let us lead by example, and show the galaxy what it means to be truly civilized. Let us forge a future that will be remembered not for our might, but for our compassion. For our wisdom. For our unwavering commitment to the betterment of all. And with those words, a course was set, a destiny sealed. The Deathworlders had awoken, and the galaxy would never be the same. But even as the meeting adjourned and the participants went their separate ways, each to begin the work of building this brave new future, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that their greatest challenges still lay ahead. For the galaxy was vast, and the Council was cunning, and there were forces at work that even the Deathworlders did not yet fully understand. Forces that, if left unchecked, could unravel all that they had worked so hard to achieve. Maya stood at the threshold for a long moment, staring out at the vast expanse of stars visible through the observation port. Out there, a new era was dawning, an era of limitless potential and unimaginable change. An era that would test the mettle of the Deathworlders as never before. And as she turned to take her leave, Maya could only wonder what trials lay in wait, and whether they would find themselves equal to the task. A year had passed since the fateful day when Maya Rodriguez had stood before the Galactic Council and issued her ultimatum. In that time, the galaxy had changed almost beyond recognition. Humanity, once the Council's most junior and least regarded member, now stood at the very heart of galactic affairs. Their technology, their ideas, their very way of life had spread like wildfire, transforming societies and appending age-old norms wherever they took root. Some embraced the change, seeing in humanity a chance for renewal, for growth, for a breaking of the stagnant cycles that had held sway for so long. Others resisted, clinging to the old ways even as they crumbled around them. But no one, not even the most stubborn traditionalist, could deny the simple truth: the galaxy belonged to the Deathworlders now. Maya Rodriguez reflected on all of this as she stood on the observation deck of the GSS Indomitable, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. Below her, the swirling blues and greens of Earth filled the viewport, a jewel of life amidst the blackness of space. "Beautiful, isn't it?" a voice said from behind her. Maya turned to see Admiral Thorne standing there, his hands clasped behind his back, his gaze fixed on the planet below. She nodded. "It is. Even after all this time, it still takes my breath away." Thorne smiled. "That's the thing about Earth. No matter how far we roam, no matter what wonders we encounter out here among the stars, there's still no place quite like home. And to think, we came so close to losing it," Maya said softly. "If the Council had had its way." "But they didn't," Thorne said firmly. "Thanks in no small part to you, Ambassador. What you did, the stand you took, it changed everything." Maya shook her head. "I only did what needed to be done. What any of us would have done, in that situation." "Perhaps," Thorne allowed. "But it was you who had the courage to do it. You who showed the galaxy the true face of humanity. Not the smiling, acquiescent mask we had worn for so long, but the steel beneath. The fire." He paused, his expression turning thoughtful. "You know, when I first joined the service, my commanding officer told me something I've never forgotten. He said that there would come a moment in my career, a moment when history itself would hang in the balance. And in that moment, he said, I would have to make a choice. A choice between what was easy, and what was right." Maya nodded slowly, understanding dawning. "And for me, that moment was in the Council chambers." "Yes," Thorne said. "And you chose right, Maya. You chose the hard path, the dangerous path. But in doing so, you changed the course of history. You gave our species a chance to claim its destiny, to take its rightful place among the stars." He turned to face her fully, his expression one of deep respect, and something more, something Maya couldn't quite name. "And for that," he said softly, "humanity will always be in your debt." Maya felt a sudden rush of emotion, a swelling of pride and purpose and something else, something warm and fierce and wonderful. For a moment, she couldn't speak, could only nod her acknowledgement of his words. And then, from below, a cheer went up, a roar of voices that seemed to shake the very hull of the ship. Maya and Thorne turned as one to the viewport, and there, rising from the surface of the planet, was a sight that took their breath away. Ships, hundreds of them, thousands, a vast armada that stretched as far as the eye could see. And at the head of that armada, proudly bearing the colors of Earth, was the indomitable. "It's time," Thorn said, a note of quiet awe in his voice. "The fleet is assembled. The orders have been given. We go now to take our place among the stars, to forge a new destiny for ourselves and for all of humanity." He turned to Maya, his hand outstretched. "Ambassador Rodriguez, will you do us the honor of giving the command?" Maya took his hand, feeling the strength in it, the surety. And as she turned to face the waiting fleet, she felt that same strength, that same surety, fill her own heart. "This is Ambassador Maya Rodriguez to all ships," she said, her voice ringing out clear and strong across the calm, jump drives to maximum. "Set course for the Galactic Core. It's time to show the universe what humanity is really made of." And with a flash of light and a roar of engines, the fleet leapt forward, hurtling into the unknown, into the future, into a destiny that would be written in the stars themselves. The age of the Deathworlders had begun. And the galaxy would never be the same.